It has come down to today. Who will be the next president of the United States?
And while the world is watching our nation, a critical Senate race in our state of Ohio between Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown and Republican Bernie Moreno is at an all-time high.
Plus, from Gen Zers to older generations, we want to know what you think about the election as our reporters hit the streets just to talk with you.
And with special live guests in the studio, we have your local election covered. Those stories and much more coming up on Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition.
From the award-winning E.W. Scripps School of Journalism in the Schoonover Center on the campus of Ohio University, this is Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition. We have a lot to cover in this special hour. I'm Shane Scalfaro.
And I'm Tanaya Stevens. We are so happy to have you with us for this special and historical day. For many Gen Zers, this day and newscast is also special because we have joined with 100 other universities and high schools working together to bring you full live coverage for 48 hours.
Student Live News is a special partnership led by Nick Hershon and Robin Quick, where we are streaming on YouTube, iHeartRadio, NBCU Academy, and PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs.
We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. The presidential campaign has come down to a final sprint across a handful of states all the way until the last day to cast your vote. This year's race has gone through a felony trial, an incompetent president being pushed off the ballot, and multiple assassination attempts.
Both candidates made their final stops of campaigning in the crucial state of election, Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris will spend tonight at her college alma mater, Howard University, watching the election unfold, and Donald Trump is hosting a watch party tonight at West Palm Beach, Florida.
This 2024 election includes multiple races from various levels of the government. Along with the president election, Ohioans will also be voting in races for the U.S. Senate and House Representative seats. In addition to positions of governor and state legislators, local officials in many counties in Ohio will have ballot measures of important issues like tax levies and infrastructure. As we move throughout the show, we will continue to keep you informed about the many races that will be happening for the state of Ohio and for the Athens County.
And I am going to be joined now by Athens Mayor Steve Patterson. Mayor Patterson, how are you doing today on this election day?
I'm doing great. I like to say that. I'm certainly nervous, a little apprehensive as to how the turnout is going to be, but I'm ready. I mean, there's been a long roll, hasn't it, through this whole election season. A lot of interesting things that you said on the intro about some of the controversy that's happened throughout this whole election cycle, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Now, I want to talk about the Ohio seat in the Senate. I mean, what is that race between, Bernie Moreno and Sherrod Brown? How is that kind of going to impact things?
Well, it's going to be interesting because a lot of what we see is typically down ballot voting, to where someone is going to sit there and start at the presidential and go, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just vote within my party up and down. There's a large number of people, though, that are going to be voting. They're going to have done their homework and sit there and go, I might vote for this individual, and then I might vote for this individual, who is of a different political party. That's not uncommon. But when it comes to Senator Sherrod Brown and Bernie Moreno's race, it's interesting because their philosophies are very different. We have a veteran senator, Sherrod Brown, whom I've known for many, many years. And I've watched him in action. I've watched him when we had the East Palestine train derailment, where he was super forward and out there when it came to rail safety, and knowing that he needed to do everything that he possibly could to make sure that rail safety is improved nationally. I've given testimony to some of the commissions in Washington, D.C., and one of them was to reauthorize the National Flood Insurance Program. And that was basically Sherrod Brown's team reaching out and going, look, you come from a municipality that has a river that runs right through the middle of it, like so many municipalities across the state of Ohio. And so I've seen and watched a lot of what Sherrod Brown has done. I'm listening certainly and getting educated on Bernie Moreno and his position on a number of things. And the thing that troubles me the most, I have twin daughters who will be 13 in January. And so my chief concern is the philosophical differences between the two when it comes to reproductive health care, the right of women to be able to manage their own health outcomes, and in particular, reproductive health care. So that's one of the things that I'm really zeroing in on and watching. What is the position? What is the track record of Bernie Moreno? What is the track record of Sherrod Brown? And I would also encourage people, I mean, it's kind of the 11th hour at this point in time, but hopefully they did their homework and did their own fact checking to find out when you look at the ads on TV and a lot of the dark money that is flowing through the United States right now with a lot of these races, there is more money than we have ever seen before with these, and in particular, the Senate race, and watching that and going, okay, who's funding that? Where are these ads coming from? Who's doing the fact checking on what is being fed into these ads? Because there's a lot of not misinformation. Misinformation is a mistake. It's disinformation. It's purposely put in to sit there and throw people off to where they're looking at whatever the candidate is for or about, versus what they aren't, because they're feeding in information that it's set up to confuse people at the end of the day.
Awesome. Well, hey, I want to thank you for joining me to talk about the Senate race a little bit. We're going to hear from you in a little bit, but let's take it back over to Tanaya.
Thanks, Shane. Tonight, we are also welcoming another live guest to be a part of the show on their insights and take on the 2024 election, both nationally and locally. We have Rick Hodges, currently an assistant clinical professor at Ohio University, but also was a state legislator for Ohio. Good evening, Professor Hodges. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
All right, so the first question is, with the landscape of the election, what have you noticed from the Gen Z voters about their take on the election?
I think they're engaged more so than in years past, and that's a wonderful thing. It's interesting, though, in talking to Gen Z voters, and I think in the way they mirror the broader electorate, in that, if you look at the challenges facing our country, and you say what we need is more inclusion, more democracy, more freedom, and to protect our democracy, you're probably going to go one way. And if you're looking at our challenges and saying, hey, we got real problems here, we need more leadership and stronger leadership, more authoritarian leadership, and we've got to not be concerned about some of these other, to them, peripheral issues, you might vote for Trump. And, I think that's part of the broader debate, but it certainly impacts Gen Z as you inherit this world.
What specific policies or issues do you believe are directly affected by younger voters that are centered around jobs, housing, and college debt?
Well, I think those three issues are certainly important. And, it's a challenging time economically to look at graduating right now. There's lots of opportunity on one hand and lots of anxiety. And, I think it comes down to what do you perceive the world you want to be? Is it something where, hey, we got to go back and retrace our steps, or is it something where, we need more progressive and aggressive leadership based on the democratic model we've had for the last 50 years.
Being involved as a state legislator and watching multiple elections unfold, would you consider this to be one of the most historical elections for America?
I do. I really do. That's said about every 2 to 4 years, and I get a little cynical about it. But I think in this case, it's probably two. There are two very distinctly different visions about what America should be, what path we should take, and what democracy really is. And you see it reflected in the candidates. One is a darker, more hazardous vision, and one is a more optimistic and brighter vision of America. I think depending on the world you see, you see more hope and optimism, or you see more need for control and pessimism.
Like I stated before, you are currently a professor here. So how do you encourage your students to go out and vote?
We talk about it a lot. I talk to students. My son is 25, and he spent his day picking up all of his friends and taking them to the polls. This is your world, and some of the issues that you mentioned, the issues that Mayor Patterson mentioned with reproductive freedom. You're not the leaders of tomorrow. You have to be the leaders of today, and this is the world you're inheriting, and this is your chance to help shape that world.
Thank you so much, Professor Hodges, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now that we have talked a little bit about Gen Z, how about we hear from Gen Z themselves?
Lucky enough, our very own Zach Ruiz is on the streets of Athens talking to members of Gen Z. What's going on, Zach?
All of us here at Gen Z Up to the Ballot want to hear your voice, from first-time voters to people who have been voting for decades. I'm going to be hitting the streets of Athens, Ohio to figure out what you have to say and hear your voice. More on that coming up later.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
This is the walk whose steps you'll retrace forever. This is a 9 a.m. class that'll change you forever. This is a 2 a.m. study session that you'll remember forever. This view is one you'll cherish forever. Let's hope that's temporary, but that is definitely forever. Your idea of a classroom, your idea of celebrations, even your idea of what a successful career might look like will all change forever. And when you leave, fellow Bobcats will give you this nod and this career push forever. This bond, this community, this place, this experience will all stay with you forever. Forever can seem daunting from the outside, but once you're in, Ohio University will forever be in you, and a part of you will forever be here at Ohio.
So the first question I have for you is, how does this year's election stand out to you compared to past elections?
Honestly, it feels like there's been so much discourse around just how to properly vote and just all these different things. I feel like it's very intriguing just to see how people have been reacting, and I feel like you know, my opinions aside, like it could easily go both ways.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. All right. Second question is, as a member of Generation Z, do you feel like we are being represented? Do you think we have a voice in this election? Do you think certain candidates kind of gear more towards Gen Z as their supporters? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that we have a huge impact on how this election goes. I think that's what happened with the last election.
Thank you so much, Zach. We'll have more from Gen Z in a little bit. Welcome back to Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition. Thanks for staying with us. Now, no matter what, history will be made in America this election. If Donald Trump wins, he'll be the first president since Grover Cleveland voted out of the White House and then back in.
And if Vice President Kamala Harris wins, she'll be the first woman ever elected president for a majority of voters. They're hoping that whoever ends up in the Oval Office will address the key issues important to them. As Laura Aguirre has more.
Women's reproductive rights. The economy, more than anything.
Border's huge for me.
I want our country to heal. I want to move past this.
Cornerstone issues driving massive voter turnout in several states today. In battleground Pennsylvania, Philly's district attorney says he's seeing more aggressive behavior than in the past, with his office investigating about a dozen calls from polling places. He's got a message for troublemakers.
We do have the cuffs. We do have the jail cells. We're not playing. F around and find out.
A couple Pennsylvania counties reported minor technical malfunctions with some voting machines, but voters could still cast their ballots. A judge granted one county, Cambria, extended hours to accommodate.
I am completely confident in our ability to run the elections fairly, and all of our voters' ballots are going to be counted.
Georgia had its share of phoned-in threats today. In one case, voting was briefly disrupted at 2 locations, bomb threats that were found to be non-credible.
We identified the source, and it was from Russia. They're up to mischief, it seems, and they don't want us to have a smooth, fair, and accurate election.
An election that may take a while to tally. Election organizers urge patience.
It's hard to predict when people will be able to wake up and know the result out of Pennsylvania.
I just want to assure the American public that it will happen, but it will be sometime after midnight.
The nation's last polls don't close until 1 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday morning in Alaska. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Michigan authorities are reporting some, quote, in serious nature threats phoned in an enclosed number of polling sites. The state's attorney general told CNN law enforcement was able to determine the threats were not genuine very quickly. They are still investigating for where their threats are originated.
An Ohio Sheriff's Office is now backpedaling after a lieutenant said he wouldn't protect people who supported Democrats. Clark County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant John Rogers wrote on social media, quote, I am sorry, if you support the Democrat Party, I will not help you. In a statement, the Sheriff's Office said people have a right to be upset, and Rogers' comments don't reflect the office's values. The statement referenced a possible medical issue involved in Rogers' actions.
For Athens residents who live outside of Athens City and in some neighboring counties, Wenda Sheard could be the next Ohio representative. She's the Democratic candidate for District 94, which covers Washington, Meigs, and most of Athens County. Sheard wants to expand cell service throughout Southeast Ohio so people can get access to resources they need. Before she retired, she was a teacher and taught students all over the world and even right here at Ohio University. If elected, Sheard wants to expand educational opportunities.
The Ohio Constitution requires a thorough and efficient system of common schools, our public schools. We have yet to have that materialize.
Sheard's opponent is Republican Kevin Ritter. He's currently a Washington County Commissioner. Before getting put into public office, Ritter was also a teacher. He taught history and government at 4 colleges and even started his own called Veritas. If elected, Ritter wants to, quote, unshackle the energy producers, including adjusting the way revenue is collected from oil and gas industries. He thinks his skills as a commissioner will come in handy at the State House.
As a county commissioner, you gain invaluable experience in developing a budget, dealing with staff, dealing with personnel issues, being the face of the local government.
As we covered information about the candidates for District 94, our very own Reese Thompson has coverage on District 95. Reese, can you tell us more?
Tanaya, this is the first election cycle where Athens is a part of District 95, and that brings a new challenge to Representative Don Jones, who's seeking a third term in the Ohio House, and his opponent, Athens Councilman Micah McCary, on how they both plan on making Athens feel heard if appointed to office. District 95 Representative Don Jones and his opponent, Athens Councilman Micah McCary, agree on one thing. As the district that spans the most counties, making sure your campaign is reaching as many voters as possible is a challenge.
Really, we've had to spend more time in Morgan County and Athens County so that people can get to know who we are.
Geographically, it takes me 2.5 hours to span from southern Athens all the way to Harrison County.
And now the district includes the city of Athens and 3 Athens County townships. Voters in different parts of the district may have differing priorities.
There are some differences between the thought process with the folks in Athens probably versus the rest of the district.
That makes it difficult for citizens to feel like their representative can even have the kind of contact with them that they'd like to.
Athens is historically the only blue county in the district, voting Democratic in every presidential election dating before the 2000s. McCary says the redistricting weakens Athens' voice as a county.
I agree that it probably makes Democrats in Athens feel like we're less united.
Jones says putting the city of Athens in the district tries to level the balance so both parties are more evenly represented.
You know, when I ran in six years ago in 2018, the index was 58% Republican, 42% Democrat. That number had climbed as high as 68%. And, you know, to try to get that number back down, they had to find some Democrats to put into the district, and you know, and this was really the only place they could find them.
Both candidates agree they have the most success resonating with voters by understanding the differentiating wants and needs of all the diverse counties across the district. Reporting for Gen Z Up to the Ballot live in Athens, I'm Reese Thompson.
I'm joined now by District 95 candidate Micah McCary. So how are you feeling on this election day?
Very excited and very appreciative of all the support I've had throughout my campaign.
Now, what are kind of some things, key takeaways, memorable moments that you've had as you reflect on this journey?
You know, it's been a great journey of experiential learning, exploring the 6 counties that comprise District 95, getting to meet a lot of different people there, and having a lot of great campaign fundraisers and opportunities to interact with folks from all kinds of different backgrounds. Even had a really remarkable hometown fundraiser in my hometown of Oberlin, Ohio, where I got to honor past teachers from our public schools who really helped shape me into the lifelong learner and leader that I am. So that included our 2022 National Teacher of the Year, Kurt Russell, and being surrounded by teachers who inspired me to lean into social studies and leadership. That was one of the campaign highlights.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, you know, what's kind of some feedback, some reactions that you have gotten over the course of this?
You know, it's been really helpful to learn strategies for speaking with people from all kinds of backgrounds and political ideologies, and finding that sometimes just taking the time to have the slow, deliberate conversation can help us find those shared values. So even coming across folks who, when knocking on doors, let me know, I don't think I'm the person you want to be talking to, I'm voting for this particular person, and I say, okay, well, if you feel strongly about that, how do you feel about local candidates? And then just to be able to talk about the issues that are important to us and my ideas for how I can hopefully help at either the state level or continue supporting folks as an Athens City Council member.
Awesome. And I want to kind of go off of that. I mean, how are you planning to kind of help build the community no matter what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a care for Ohio in general, and I've just been on this path of increasing my appreciation for starting with the Ohio University campus and then the city of Athens, and then doing leadership programs like leading in Athens County and leading in Appalachia. And now I'm ready for that more regional perspective, and really excited to take what I've learned from a city council perspective, along with what I've aspired to complete and achieve as a state House of Representatives member, and do the best to support everyone in Ohio.
Awesome. And then last question, I mean, the support you've received, how have you seen it kind of shape your campaign as it's gone on?
You know, it's going to be exciting for me to make sure I continue the momentum that I've generated with younger people, Gen Z, and others who've said that they were previously unwilling or uninterested in running for office, and I hope to support them regardless of this outcome.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time on this busy election. Come out and talk with us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. Let's send it back over to Tanaya.
One of the issues of Ohio's ballot that has the furthest reaching implications for our state this election is Issue 1. With more on that story, here's Dan Gray.
The political rhetoric in Ohio surrounding ballot issue 1 has been quite confusing in the lead up to Super Tuesday. Yard signs on both sides of the aisle mention putting a stop to gerrymandering in Ohio. So what does a yes vote mean? What does a no vote mean? Voting yes on ballot issue 1 would be a vote for a bipartisan citizen commission being installed in the voter districting process, removing elected officials from the proceedings. Voting no on issue 1 would be a vote to ensure that the current system stays in place, continuing the practice of having elected officials draw voting districts after the census every 10 years. Leading up to the election, citizen volunteers are mobilizing resources at the Democratic headquarters for Athens County. These volunteers understand well how this ballot issue affects their community.
We were carved out of the 94th House District and pulled up into the 95th, which takes us up to Harrison County, Guernsey, Belmont County. Why did they do this? Because Athens Township and Canaan Township tend to be Democratic.
And Republicans in Athens County have been getting the word out as well through student group initiatives and media appearances. We saw an example of that earlier today here in the pod at Ohio University's Schoonover Center. Aiden Fox is with OU College Republicans and has been canvassing against the issue as this election season winds down.
But the biggest issue is actually coming from Section 6 of the amendment, where it actually talks about the districting process, how they're actually going to draw the maps. You may say bipartisan, it's not going to be.
Jared Christian, Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for this district of Ohio, wants the voters to know this about the ballot issue.
If you're tired of having representatives who don't represent you, vote yes on issue 1.
And with the information at your disposal, it's your ballot, your choice. For Gen Z Up to the Ballot, I'm Dan Gray.
Wow, that was a lot to take in, Shane. Hopefully they cleared that up, some of the confusion going into the polls. Thank you, Dan Gray, for that.
When we come back from break, we'll dive deeper into Gen Z voters and another special interview with the Mayor of Athens, Mayor Patterson. And heading to break, there's another look at ongoing races and at your election weather. We'll be back after the break.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
This is the walk whose steps you'll retrace forever. This is a 9 a.m. class that'll change you forever. This is a 2 a.m. study session that you'll remember forever. This view is one you'll cherish forever. Let's hope that's temporary, but that is definitely forever. Your idea of a classroom, your idea of celebrations, even your idea of what a successful career might look like will all change forever. And when you leave, fellow Bobcats will give you this nod and this career push forever. This bond, this community, this place, this experience will all stay with you forever. Forever can seem daunting from the outside, but once you're in, Ohio University will forever be in you, and a part of you will forever be here at Ohio.
How are you feeling about our state election?
Look, this state has drifted to the right for the last decade or so. Sherrod Brown's pretty much our only statewide elected Democrat, and there's a reason for that. He is, and I will go on record as saying this, he's the best U.S. Senator there is, point blank period. For me personally, I'm so invested in Sherrod Brown because my dad is a war veteran. He was exposed to toxic burn pits in the Middle East. Sherrod Brown not only wrote and passed the Honoring Our Pact Act to make sure that we actually took care of the veterans that we got sick, but when I'm from Chillicothe, there's a VA hospital there. During the Trump administration, they put in a bunch of cuts and they were going to close that hospital down forever. It would have not only threatened my dad's health care, but it would have sent my community into oblivion. So I'm really out here to say thank you to Sherrod Brown, if anything.
Welcome back to Gen Z Up to the Ballot, and welcome back, Mayor Patterson. Thank you for sticking with us.
Sure, Janaya, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, what do you believe this presidential race means to the Gen Zers?
You know, I like to believe that what this means is it means a choice between someone who's going to support reproductive health care moving forward and having to manage our Supreme Court, which, you know, as we all recognize, is fairly biased when they devolved away from Roe v. Wade and throwing it down on the state level. I'd also say the states are doing, those who are really interested and who are energized are voting to create their own laws. But I think that's a big component is reproductive health care. I think environmental rights and environmental action is another big issue when you're looking at what is going on, not just in the state of Ohio, but nationally and globally when it comes to what we're doing to the planet. And I hold myself completely guilty as a boomer to where, you know, we weren't the greatest stewards of the planet, but there's time to change that. And I know that that is absolutely a Gen Z issue. I certainly hear about it at Ohio University when I'm engaging with Student Senate, and they say one of the things that they're adamantly interested in is climate. So that's going to be a big choice for some to make, whether it's drill on federal lands, or it is more importantly preserving those federal lands and not allowing for the continual harvesting of fossil fuel for the fossil fuel industry nationally. That's a big issue. I also think that, you know, what we're hearing with all the hyperbole over hate, polarization, and extremism is really weighing on a lot of individuals. I know it certainly is for individuals of my own age. When I'm engaging with students at Ohio University, I'm hearing it there too, to where when you're listening to the rhetoric, when you're listening to everything that's going on with the campaign through the campaign season, you know, that fueling the hate versus turning the heat down and what we're seeing. I belong to a group called Strong Cities Network, which our mission is to manage and work our way through what we're seeing as extremism, polarization, and hatred, and turning that heat down from that and being political leaders to sit there and say there's a different way in which we can engage with it. It doesn't have to be yelling and threats that are going on. It's diplomacy at the end of the day. And I think that that's a big choice too, whether it's going to be an individual whose track record of diplomacy and working on the international stage, because that's where a lot of the players are, versus an individual who basically just wants to layer more tariffs on everybody as a way to sit there and get them in alignment. Because if you think about tariffs, tariffs are going to come back on us is just an add-on to the cost and expense of things as they're being imported into the United States. So, you know, tariffs can work, but not in the way that we're hearing. And I think that should be critically important to people when we always hear the economy, the economy. Well, you put a lot of tariffs on products that are coming in the United States, and you've now just created even more strain on our economy, and it's just going to push people backwards. So those are the choices. There's many, many more, but I think those are probably the more critical choices that we're seeing with a lot of our Gen Zers, not just Gen Z. I would say Gen X, I would say millennials, I would say the boomers, that these are fundamental issues with our own rights as citizens to be able to live in a clean, free, productive environment. And so we've got a choice to make.
Very insightful. Before the break, we touched on Issue 1. If passed or not, how will Issue 1 Citizens Redistricting Commission Amendment affect Athens, Ohio?
I think it'll greatly affect Athens, Ohio. You heard our representative for the 95th district, who is Don Jones, and basically Don Jones was saying, well, we didn't have enough Democrats in our district, so Athens got carved out of the 94th district and thrown into the 95th. So now our district runs from Athens, is the furthest south, all the way up to Cadiz, Ohio, which is up near Steubenville. That's a long district to where philosophically people think very differently about their environment, about agriculture, the population in general. And so I think to bring Athens back into a proper district, which was the 94th district, where it was Athens County, Meigs County, and part of Washington County. Well, we're in the county with a lot of Appalachian communities, Southeast Ohio Appalachian communities. So I think for having something like Issue 1 pass, which I'm really hopeful that it passes, because it means that there's going to be a citizen-based group, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, 5 independents that serve on this and sit there and correct a lot of the wrongs with some districting, which was clearly to favor one political party over the other. This will bring things back to a level playing field.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson, for being on here. We're going to send it right back to Shane.
Thanks, Anaya. And, we talked about Gen Z in this election, and our very own reporter, Dylan Muck, took to the streets yesterday to speak to college students about the election. Here's Dylan with more.
I'm here on College Green talking to fellow Ohio University students about the presidential election and whether they feel like either candidate represents them well, and if either candidate has made a noticeable push towards Gen Zers.
For many students, this is their first presidential election as voters, and young voters are a very important demographic to gain control of the White House. However, sometimes they feel like their voice is not heard.
We all know that this just comes down to lobbyists and stuff. That's all that really matters. Money talks, and I don't got money, so they ain't talking for me.
While some students do not feel well represented by either candidate, others feel like this is not the case. More specifically, referring to current Vice President Kamala Harris.
I think that for the most part, President Harris has my best interests at heart, yeah.
Being a woman and having friends that are part of a lot of minority groups, I feel like Kamala definitely has mine and the people that I love, their best interest in heart.
A place where Harris has made ground this election has been with women voters. According to National Public Radio's last poll reported on Monday, Harris leads with a woman by 11 percentage points, while Trump leads men by 4 points. A 15-point difference overall. One trend from students I spoke to was that Harris seemed to have a much more noticeable impact on social media.
Kamala Harris's Kamala HQ account on TikTok.
Kamala Harris, she has like some Fortnite map now.
Reporting from College Green for Gen Z Up to the Ballot, I'm Dylan Muck.
Thanks for that, Dylan. Very interesting to hear some students' perspectives on the presidential race. We'll have to wait and see just how impactful young voters end up being in this election. New questions about a standing ban in a few states has raised some national attention. This ban can be seen as either good for women, bad for men, or somewhere in between. As most issues in politics, it's complicated.
There are several states that do not allow a divorce to be finalized if a spouse is pregnant. States such as Missouri, Texas, California, Arizona, and Arkansas. The ban dates back to 1973, set in place to work with custody and child support. Basically, the rule was intended to make sure men were financially accountable for their children they fathered. Missouri law, for example, requires women wanting a divorce to disclose whether they are pregnant.
I'm currently outside at Ohio University where I'm getting the thoughts of GenZ on this current ban.
It seems like a way to control women, especially mothers. It seems very archaic, and I don't understand why that would be a thing.
It seems, again, very archaic and like very outdated, because like women can get credit cards now and like own homes. Why can't they finalize a divorce?
State judges won't grant divorces while a woman is pregnant. They want the father to be responsible. But does this way of thinking hurt the woman?
But from the sounds of it, it's just something that kind of restricts the freedom of people that might actively want to pursue a divorce for various reasons.
Restricting freedom is one reason others argue it prevents women in abusive marriages a chance to get out. In Missouri House Bill 2402, introduced by Missouri State Representative Ashley Ann, could take the pregnancy question off the petition if as a whole it passed. That's if it passes. Here in Ohio, women can get a divorce while pregnant, but courts often delay finalizing the divorce until after the child is born. Reporting for GenZ Up to the Ballot, I'm Gabby Nafsinger.
Advocates for the law change say that having a divorce attorney can help, but they also say that this is just another law that attempts to take away the rights and freedoms of women and their bodies. We're going to take another look at the weather as we head to the voting booth.
And look at the candidates for Athens County officials. We have ton more for after the break. Stay tuned.
When I was in foster care, When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
This is the walk whose steps you'll retrace forever. This is a 9 a.m. class that'll change you forever. This is a 2 a.m. study session that you'll remember forever. This view is one you'll cherish forever. Let's hope that's temporary, but that is definitely forever. Your idea of a classroom, your idea of celebrations, even your idea of what a successful career might look like will all change forever. And when you leave, fellow Bobcats will give you this nod and this career push forever. This bond, this community, this place, this experience will all stay with you forever. Forever can seem daunting from the outside, but once you're in, Ohio University will forever be in you, and a part of you will forever be here at Ohio.
All right, and then may I ask which presidential candidate you support and why?
I support Kamala Harris. There's two reasons for this. One, Donald Trump is deranged. He is increasingly senile and he's just going mad. I have had that man on the ballot since I was in middle school, and now I graduate college in May. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of what he's done to politics. This isn't normal. This has been my entire political culture has circled around him, and I want to put him away. And I'm supporting Kamala Harris because she has a positive vision for the country. I'm someone who wants to own a house. She has a plan to build houses. I'm someone who wants to have kids. She has a plan to make it easier for young families to start. I'm someone who wants to protect the climate, and she is going to certainly be a lot better than what any Republican is offering. So that's why I'm supporting Kamala.
Welcome back to special edition of Gen Z Up to the Ballot. Thank you for tuning in.
Now there's still time to vote, but let's highlight some important voting information for Athens County. As far as where to vote, some of the nearby locations near downtown Athens are Baker Center at Ohio University and First Presbyterian Church. You can also check out this website to find a location near you where you can cast your ballot. Just as a reminder to residents, voting opened this morning at 6:30 a.m. and closes tonight at 7:30. November 1st was the deadline for absentee ballots, and at this time, voters should either place your mail-in ballots in a drop box or vote in person at the polls at the regular polling place. Now, if you're in need of a ride to the polls, Athens Public Transit has you covered. They're offering free transportation to help get voters to the polls to vote. This includes Athens buses and Athens On-Demand Transit. Spin, the e-scooter company, is also offering free rides to help voters to the polls.
Voters in Athens County are being asked to renew a levy to support programs and facilities for senior citizens in the county. One of the programs is Meals on Wheels, run by HACCAP and the Southeast Ohio Food Bank. More now from Allison Patton, our reporter.
Josh Dean starts his day here at Southeast Ohio Food Bank.
These are frozen meals. These are for our Tuesday and Thursday routes.
Loading his delivery truck with the food he prepped for the Meals on Wheels program.
Meals on Wheels, Sandra.
A lot of the seniors in the program are on fixed incomes, like Troy Amodio.
Well, I depend on this to actually make it through the month. Without these meals, there might be days that I wouldn't eat.
He's a war veteran who relies on disability checks to get by each month. Valerie Adis with HAPCAP says some seniors have another obstacle to overcome.
So the seniors are homebound, which means they don't have the opportunity to leave their house themselves. They rely on others to come to them.
While seniors appreciate the hot meal, they also value the company and conversation that comes with it, because sometimes it's the only interaction they get in a day. Seniors like Sandra Bullock, who uses a wheelchair. She says her driver, Dean, is very kind and helpful.
Yeah. He's been very good.
Well, thank you.
And you helped a lot, too.
I know. I always ask if there's something I can do for you.
Meals on Wheels doesn't just help hunger, it also builds community.
And we're ready to go in.
I know. Issue 21 is a renewal levy, meaning homeowners would continue to pay about $6 per $100,000 of the appraised value of their home. The report was from our sister station, WOUB, with reporter Allison Patton. And we would just like to state that during this show that we have several opinions from different viewers, and we just want to let you know that a lot of people have different views and opinions, but it's up to you to decide on who you would vote for.
Absolutely. We appreciate everyone that spoke to us on the street, but their views also do not directly reflect us as a station.
There's a lot of important issues on this ballot this year in Athens, and issue 17 is one of them. The Athens County Public Libraries are looking for an important funding levy for the 2025 year. By increasing funds from the state by $300,000, the property value per month will slightly increase. But adding funding in the library could also mean adding important resources for the community. Nick Wood says the Athens Public Library is a good resourceful place for families.
There's always something fun happening there. A few weeks ago they had like a Jane Austen event. Last time I went there was some guy with a giant loom set up, like weaving something.
There are 8 branches of libraries that would be affected by the polls. Help for services such as voter registration, movie checkouts, bike rentals, kids centers, and reading corners are currently available at the Athens County Library. Be sure to tune in to our special edition at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning to find out the results. Shane, you have another special guest joining us today. Who might that be?
That's right. I'm joined now by Keandra Martin, a Gen Z student at Ohio University. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Definitely a little nervous, but it's a great day. It's a good day.
Awesome, awesome. So, first thing, what issues kind of in this election have maybe motivated you to vote this year?
Sure. I definitely would say, as a Black woman, as a young college student, obviously women's reproductive rights, reproductive health is very important to me. And just kind of on that same note, I feel like maybe the issue of police immunity is also super big to me. Being an advocate of social justice, police brutality, seeing the things that have happened in recent years, those are probably 2 of my biggest things that would definitely make me get to the ballot.
And obviously, you know, as Gen Zers, social media, big part of our lives of this election. How has it maybe helped shape the way that you're voting or looking at issues?
And you know what? I would actually say that I'm probably a student who's a little bit more nerdy, definitely maybe politician at heart. I actually really enjoy looking into both parties, doing my own research, watching the news. They call me granny sometimes. I feel like the media can kind of almost be a little bit misconstruing. I want Gen Zers to know that, you know, just because Beyonce sang at Kamala's or you might have seen Chef G here at Trump's rallies, it's just really important to be educated about what's really happening, what's happening in the media.
Awesome. And then how do you kind of feel about the perception of representation of young voices in the government?
Sure, yeah. I think that whether people like it or not, Gen Z is out there. Our voices are loud. We get done what needs to get done. We say what we feel, and I feel like social media is kind of almost the #1 way that we relay those messages, especially now, especially today. I've seen probably millions and millions of reposts and reshares of the same post, different videos, people giving their opinions, and so I really do commend our generation in that sense. I think that we really do try to make a stand and really understand our America because we know that we're the future. So.
Awesome. And then, you know, what would you want older generations to kind of understand about the issues that Gen Z sees?
Yeah, sure. So the world changes quickly, fastly, almost every day. And although we respect our elders, we respect our ancestors, that respect has to come from knowing what they went through to get where we are today. So knowing that our ancestors died, fought, rioted, voted, yelled, were, you know, killed, put in prisons, to be able to vote, to be able to be where we are integrated as America today, I feel like that's really important to know. And so we're not going to go backwards. I think Gen Z is definitely at the polls today, and I've definitely seen that throughout my campus as well as, you know, other campuses across America.
And then last question, what advice would you give to young voters about the decision to either vote or not vote?
Sure, and kind of maybe just piggybacking off of what I said, your voice matters, your vote matters, and kind of just like I said before, our ancestors really brought us here. They fought for us to be here. They fought for us to have this right. And I think just as all the others, just like freedom of speech, I think voting comes right just as important up there.
Awesome. Well, I very much appreciate your time coming to talk with us. Talk about Gen Z.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's send it back over to Sanaya.
Thanks, Shane. Coming back from the break, we will talk about student journalists like ourselves and final words about the polls and races to watch, included with the issues focused in Ohio and what the weather's looking like. Don't go anywhere.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
This is the walk whose steps you'll retrace forever. This is a 9 a.m. class that'll change you forever. This is a 2 a.m. study session that you'll remember forever. This view is one you'll cherish forever. Let's hope that's temporary, but that is definitely forever. Your idea of a classroom, your idea of celebrations, even your idea of what a successful career might look like will all change forever. And when you leave, fellow Bobcats will give you this nod and this career push forever. This bond, this community, this place, this experience will all stay with you forever. Forever can seem daunting from the outside, but once you're in, Ohio University will forever be in you, and a part of you will forever be here at Ohio.
Welcome back to Gen Z Up to the Ballot special edition. And Shane, I'd like to say that this has been a great episode. It's been so delightful to hear all the guests, Professor Rick Hodges, Keandra Martin, Micah McCary. What can you say about it?
I mean, yeah, they've been awesome. They say some really great things about, this election, Gen Z, all of the above. It's just been awesome.
This election's been covered by student journalists across the United States for a lot. And for a lot of them, this is a brand new experience to cover such a high-state politics. Reporter Zoe Blankenship tells us what election coverage looks like for student journalists right here at Ohio University.
This is the Radio and Television building where I, along with many other journalism, news, and information students, have been working very hard for the last several weeks and even months to prepare for this 2024 presidential election. The 2024 presidential election is still making waves across the states, and student political journalists are feeling the heat. Aoife Jalepis is a first-year writer for The New Political.
Everyone is so excited, which is great to see. Everyone's so excited about the election season.
Ohio University journalism, news, and information majors are working around the clock to cover the updates on the election and its surrounding events.
There's so much journalism happening on so many different levels, and there's so much reporting happening, and that it is still a field that's very alive and well.
Elena Sayer's writings for The New Political include articles about J.D. Vance and Appalachian voters. Ohio University student journalists often do their work as an extracurricular or for class, and the work can get demanding, especially during election season, according to the Post writer Suzanne Piper.
It's definitely been a lot. I would say that I've just tried to do things for me after I write my articles.
But WOUB's Jack Green says that covering an election can actually be a lot of fun.
A little bit of added stress, but it's a good kind of stress. I mean, like I said, elections are fun to cover, so I wouldn't trade that for the world, and it's a great experience to be doing it here.
For Gen Z Up to the Ballot, I'm Zoe Blankenship.
Ohio University is home to 7 student-run magazines and 2 student newspapers, and plus Gen Z Up to the Ballot. That is all the time we have today, but make sure you tune in till tomorrow at 9 a.m. for a post-election show. I'm Tanaya Stevens.
I'm Shane Scout-Farrell. Thank you for joining us, and this has been Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition.
From the award-winning EW Scripps School of Journalism in the Schoonover Center on the campus of Ohio University, This has been Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition.